picked this lesson to follow up when we did we did prophecies, the last thing. And as you're looking at prophecies of Christ, and we did a lot of Old Testament stuff, and of course all Old Testament stuff really, but the prophecies of Christ, we said, well, the thing that would follow that would be the life of Christ. What led us to the prophecies kind of was looking at the post-exile Jerusalem, post-exile Israel. Ezra and Nehemiah, we did a lot of that kind of thing. And so that led us into the prophecies, which led us into the life of Christ. So where do you go from here? You know, does anybody got any ideas? You don't have to spit them out right now because, you know, you weren't expecting to. You got an idea? See me or Chuck or Brent. We're hoping to get Brent involved with this too. He went and ran ahead, I think. Hoping to get Brent involved with this. I went to church with the kids. When was I up here and did that? In April. And the guy taught, it was out of a book. The book was called Something Happened When I Prayed. And it was, I think there was like 4 things, but it was something good, something bad, something scary. It was like even some of the things. But it was called Something Happened When I Prayed. And it seemed like it would have been a good study. But I don't know. That was just something I was exposed to more than anything. So, anyways, if you got an idea, see us. See us quick, because we'll come up with one. We'll come up with an idea somewhere. So, Life of Christ is kind of ending there. I listened to Chuck last week on the road. I was going across Alabama from Birmingham to Atlanta, and listened to Chuck and double checked on YouTube. But he kind of finished up with Pilate basically. You want them guilty? It's a blood on your hands. They said, you know, blood on the generations to come. Yeah, that's okay, which is a pretty heavy thing. And in John 19:12, from then on, Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, "If you release this man, you're not Caesar's friend. Everyone who makes himself a king opposes Caesar." So they kind of pushed it back on him. If you want to be a politician, you better do this. So then when Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out and sat down on the judgment seat at a place called the Stone Pavement, in Aramaic, Gabbatha. Now it was the day of preparation of the Passover. It was about the 6th hour. He said to the Jews, "Behold, your king." What day of the week was it? I know it probably really doesn't matter, but you need. It was Friday, but not TGIF. That's a very good point. They didn't thank him at all that was Friday. They should have. It should have been a big TGIF, but it was not. So it was definitely a Friday. The Passover would have been Saturday. So anyways, it was about the 6th hour. What is the 6th hour? Probably high noon. Yeah. It would probably be high noon. I think 6 to 6 is basically their time. You know, I don't know. Is it sundials? Is it this, that? I won't get into it. I should, as an engineer. I should really get into time, but I think, let's say noon, okay? Halfway through the day. So about noon is about when the 6th hour would be. So it's about noon that he says, you know, he tells them, "Behold your king." They cried out, away with him, and crucify him." Pilate said to them, "Shall I crucify your king?" Chief priests answered, "We have no king but Caesar. He's not our king." So he delivered them over to him. He delivered him over to them to be crucified. So Pilate says, "Crucify him. If he's not your king, and he's really not my problem," he gives them back to the Jews. And that's kind of where Chuck finished off right there. He's found, I don't know that he's really found guilty, but he's assessed guilty. How about that? Does that sound like a better word?
He's decided to say, you know, this is a province that's just trouble.
Yeah.
And the thing he is charged to do is to keep the peace.
Keep the peace.
So he's decided this is what I need to do. It's the wrong thing to do, but I'm going to keep the peace.
I don't see anything wrong with him. He can't. But the people are like, "No, we want him dead." And that's where they're at. It's a tough place to be when you know some of these people were the same ones who were cheering him on at the beginning of the week. So what we're going to cover today is just on the way to the cross. So from the point that he's handed over, that he's I don't know, declared guilty or, like I said, whatever, until he's hung on the cross. And that's what we're really going to cover. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. John only has one verse that covers that journey. The other ones have little pieces. I'll kind of hopscotch, but I'm going to try to put you on a path on the way to the cross. So it'll be a path, and that's what we'll try to get. Anybody Catholic or used to be Catholic? Let me ask you that. Is anybody here used to be Catholic? No? I know the Catholics make a big deal about this on the way to the cross part. Okay, I'm not a Catholic. I don't know. I didn't look deeper. I know they've got 7 stations of the cross. I also know that the 7 stations don't all appear in the biblical accounts. So, like I said, we're going to cover what the Gospels cover, but I know they make a bigger deal out of it, and I'll just leave it at that. Matthew 27:31. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of his robe, put his own clothes on him, and led him away to crucify him. Mark 15:20. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the purple cloak, put his own clothes on him, and they led him out to crucify him. So at the end of the Roman trials, what was Jesus wearing? At the end of the trials, he wasn't wearing his own clothes. So this happens right after the trials. He had a purple robe on. He had a purple robe. I think you're right. I think Herod gave him that purple robe. Earlier on in the Jewish trials, he put on a white one. Is that right? I think it was from his own clothes to is it purple? I mean, it goes white, and then later it's a purple one. I don't know. I'm not thinking real clear this week. But I think he changes twice. Anyways, so why purple? Royalty. Yeah. He's your king. He's your king. So yeah, the purple represents that. Just to even give them another shot at it. So it represents royalty. It's another way to mock him. Kaufman's commentary also includes that the robe probably included blue, purple, and scarlet, which are the 3 colors of the sacred veil of the temple. So it's kind of like you say, it kind of mocks their religiousness too. They've been the same color as the veil. So I don't know about that. I didn't go any deeper. That's what Kaufman said, blue, purple, and scarlet. I could see that. It wouldn't be just purple. You'd have some highlights or something on it. So, and I'd never heard that part, so I showed it. Why didn't they change him out of the purple robe and back to his own clothes? It was expensive. It wasn't his anyways, right? You find he's got to be a criminal, don't waste something good on him. I'm with you. I think that's really the key. Psalm 22, 16-18 is also prophecy. For dogs encompass me, and a company of evildoers encircles me. They have pierced my hands and feet. I can count all my bones. They stare and gloat over me. They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. So part of it is his clothes have to go to the cross with him. It's already prophesied that his clothes are going. So, and not just this borrowed or loaned out purple robe. So it says, when they mocked him, and then they stripped him of the purple cloak. Are the they who mocked him the same as they who changed his clothes and led him away? That's a hard thing with pronouns. Sometimes in the Bible it uses more pronouns in a sentence, and I've never seen a book use so many pronouns. Is it the same they? What would lead you to think that it may not be the same they? Yeah, the soldiers who mocked him and hit him and, hey, tell us who this is. There might have been one group, and then there have been other ones that had to take on the dirty duty of taking somebody to crucify him, the bloody, not dirty, but just bloody. So another set of soldiers would have done that. You see a tense change in the language too. When they had mocked him, is one set. So they had mocked him, and then they stripped him. And it may or may not really work out that way, but the first phrase seems to talk about something that had happened in the past. And they did this. So it seems to imply, not necessarily, but there may be two different sets of people. Is it a big deal? It's not. It's just little clues, and when you really want to get into Bible study, the little clues make the big difference a lot of times. So, John 19:17. So they took Jesus, and he went out bearing his own cross to the place called the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. Where were the soldiers leading Jesus for the crucifixion? Another easy one. Just outside the wall. Yeah, just outside the wall to the place of the skull, Golgotha. Yeah, it was the big ripping off of the Band-Aid. Right. Yeah. Maybe he might have. I think when Grant did the trials of Paul, the stuff that he went through, I think in his paper that he did, he said that a lot of times they lost 25 to 33% of their blood loss. You know, a lot of blood. Yeah, through flogging. So he had been like that. Like I said, bleeding out the bag. He put that on. It just bleed into the cloth, and any congealing or whatever, it would just, as you take that off, it would just yank it even again. So, yeah. So we're going to Golgotha. This is an old picture, as you can tell. It's at least black and white. It looks old to me. And part of it is because I see later pictures that there's stuff built up around it even more. This is, the Mormons have a lot of pictures when they've entered that area. So this is the skull feature of Golgotha. Do you see the skull? You see it. It's kind of, I'm with Clayton. Sometimes I look at it and it's like, kind of. And with Susan, sometimes like, yeah, you really see it. But another view of it, they got it kind of circled. You back up a little bit, and that wall like that, it's on that sheer rock wall, and they've, like I said, they've built up around it and stuff. But it looks like a skull, Skeletor, or one of the Ents, or something like that. I mean, it looks like something out of a fantasy book, anyways. And then it looks like it would open its mouth and speak out oracles. Thou who hast entered before me. But, something. But it looks like a skull. So that's where Golgotha was. Like Chuck said, it was outside the wall. This map's too small to see, but you can kind of see the black lines of where the wall around Jerusalem was. They have two different areas of where Golgotha may be, the traditional Golgotha and a possible Golgotha. Either way, they're outside the city wall. So they're outside the city wall. Is where Golgotha is. Why? So why are they leading them to this place of the skull outside the city wall? Why not kill him there? You feel you got the rights. You feel that he's been found guilty. Well, this thing here, see if I can point it out. And here's the temple, but Herod's palace is here. I don't even know where Pilate's thing would have been. Anyways, I mean, why make the effort to take them from a place like here even? Take them out there or take them out there? Why waste your time? Yeah, make a bigger example, right? Yeah, make sure everybody knows. You can draw a bigger crowd. More people can watch. Also, executions were forbidden in the city. So that was, although they were allowed to stone somebody, it's outside the camp type thing. In Numbers 15:35, Moses, Sabbath breakers were to be stoned outside the camp. They were to be stoned, but don't do it here. And it's part of the camp being, yeah, you're right. It's where you lived. And it's also who you are. It's Israel. Israel is the camp. Even the church is the church. And this is what happens here. The Sabbath breakers are people who've not kept the law of Israel. They've not kept the law of God and God's people. They are outside of God. So this is an outside thing. You're going to take care of it like they're outsiders. Take care of them like they're trash, is really what it is. Yeah, you're living inside the camp. You're living inside the city. Take care of this out there with the trash. So that's where that gets to be. Stephen was stoned outside the city. They didn't kill him inside the city the same way. So that kind of the reason for doing that. Hebrews 13, 12 and 13. So Jesus also suffered outside the gate in order to sanctify the people through his own blood. Therefore, let us go to him outside the camp and bear the reproach that he endured. So these words are the same thing. Jesus suffers outside the camp. And it's, at the time, the Jewish people would have to step outside of being Jewish to find Christ. They would have to step outside of that to find him. So, and his blood covers people on the outside too. So they took Jesus. The crucifixion was outside the city of Golgotha, at Golgotha. But where was the cross? Where was the cross itself as this journey starts? They're going to take him from Pilate's Hall, basically, or the Gabbatha, the judgment seat. They're going to take him from there to Golgotha, the skull. But where was the cross? It was on his back as long as he could carry it. Yeah, after what he's been through, it's amazing that he can carry it all. So it starts where he starts. It's like, so they got this judgment seat. Here's your judgment. Here's your cross. It's, I would almost thought it would have been at the other end, maybe keep reusing them. Hey, we just string people up here and this next, But no, they make a bigger deal out of it, and you got to tote this thing with you the whole way. And we know he carries it, but, I guess I'm assuming. Does anybody else got a better excuse for why would you have to carry this thing that far? It's part of the punishment, yeah? They've done everything else to him. Why not? Just add to the punishment. If he doesn't make it that far, we didn't kill him. We didn't crucify him, So who starts carrying the cross? Like John says, on his back. So he took Jesus bearing his own cross. So he starts out. He's carrying his own cross. Chuck says, what kind of physical shape is he in? He suffered severe blood loss from flogging. He's been up for at least a day and a half. Day and a half, he's been awake. How much has he eaten? Nothing. Last thing he ate was crackers and juice. Thursday night was the last thing he ate. Did he eat? I don't know, but Passover. So he probably ate the lamb too. He would eat the whole thing. Yeah. So Thursday night was the last time he really ate, and this is Friday noon. But okay. I mean, it's been a little while. It's been less than a day maybe since he's eaten, but he's still in
sleep and headache.
And no sleep. Very stressful situation the whole time. He was sweating blood before this whole thing started. If you've ever been under serious stress, you know how that. I don't handle stress like I used to, and as I'm finding out as I get older, and it'll flat out kill you. He was in bad shape. Estimates vary, possibly the main beam would have been 15-foot post, the cross member being 8 foot. And there was an architect in the 18th century that estimated, he weighed the pieces of the cross that the Catholics have in there, and he added and guessed in 165 pounds. He went to the effort, I'll take 165 pounds. Okay? No, I'm with you. They also have more fingers of saints than saints would have. So relics are relics, but that was what he based it on. The story always gets better. Yeah. So, anywho, 165 pound, give, take, whatever. Anybody want to pick up 165 pounds and start walking? Take 165 pound down to Walmart for me. Nobody? We'll just get it from the Mockingbird over here. I'm sure they got a log or so. You don't want to. You just don't want to. And especially after all that, but that's when they put on it. Guesstimates. That's what they put on him to carry. Luke 23:26, and as they led him away, they seized one Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, and laid on him the cross to carry it behind Jesus. So Jesus just wasn't moving fast enough. We got to get this done. We got to move these refrigerators, these color TVs. We got to get this job done. Sorry, just had to. They had to get it done, and Jesus wasn't going fast enough, and he just wasn't going to make any progress. So there's this guy coming in from the country. He's coming inside the wall, and they seize him. Matthew and Mark used the word compelled. The word compelled in English, I compelled you to do something. That I twisted your arm a little bit. Is it much more than that? It doesn't have that weight of it, compel can, but typically I compelled somebody to do the opening prayer on Sunday morning. Brent and I and Chuck, we've done this. We've compelled people to lead a prayer. Man, they seized him. I have never seized somebody and made them lead a prayer. I've been seized myself and done some crazy things around here. But yeah, Luke uses the word seized. So where was Simon from? Cyrene. Anybody want to guess where Cyrene's from? Where it is? Call your travel agent now. That's far away. That's where Shrek was from. Why didn't they compel Shrek? He's a bigger guy. He could have carried a bigger load. Isn't that where he's from? Far away. Any guesses? Can't be wrong, can it? Yeah. Cyrene's in Libya. Cyrene's in Libya, so it's in Africa. That's where it's at. So he's far away. Is Libya? I don't even know where Libya is at. I'll be honest. It'd be north of Africa. So Egypt, Morocco, Libya. Okay. I don't think he knew. That's another question. Why do you think he was coming in the country? Did he just go and wander in and say, dude, I wish I could carry a big, heavy log? No. Why was he coming in? Passover, yeah. Name like Simon, he's a Jew. He's a Jew. He's coming in for Passover. Just got into town from, 900-mile walk, whatever. He just got into town on a day of preparation to come in for Passover. He's kind of lucky he got there. The soldiers grab him. They seize him. We got a job for you. You can't say no because we're soldiers. So why him? What's that? It was there. That's probably a good answer. Luck of the draw. He was a Jew. It wasn't like they grabbed a Roman. They grabbed a Jew. They grabbed somebody. He might have been a big guy. He might have looked like the kind of guy that could to do it. They had to, and we know that the thing about the extra mile, and they could have you carrying their pack for a mile. Hey, you, drop what you're doing and carry this, because we can. But yeah, likely he was a Jew. So it was a good target. Mark's version says they compelled a passerby, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, the father of Alexander and Rufus, carry his cross. So now we know he's the father of Alexander and Rufus. Aren't you better off knowing that? We are, right? So why include it? There's a lot of details of why are they there? Would you have wrote that in your own book? As Mark writes this, people would have known apparently who Alexander and Rufus was. I don't know Alexander. The only Rufus I know comes to church with us. They would have probably been Christians. As Mark writes this book, they would have probably been Christians that the people would have known. Simon, I've read that he becomes a Christian. I don't know where they could theorize that, but anyways. I think Paul writes about a Rufus in one of his letters, so these might be the same guys. But it lets you know that Simon of Cyrene is more than just here. I think that's really the key, So he's a believer of some sort. So I don't know. I could chase that would have took.
Imagine he's got to have some sincerity. He walked to Jerusalem.
He didn't have to come.
Dedication.
There's a lot of dedication to that. Yeah. And it's a guy that dedicated enough to walk from Libya to Jerusalem for the Passover is dedicated enough to stick around for another 50 days, you know. Day of Pentecost, Simon of Cyrene was there. I'll guarantee it. He came to see his kids. Might have had kids after that, you know. I don't know. Yeah. I would put a guy like this, a faithful guy that walked that way, a faithful guy that carried that cross. I'm like, what's this guy here for? Or he did what? You know. And you stick around for 50 days and you hear Peter say, you nailed him to the cross. It's like, dude, I carried that cross. You know. You want to find a guy who was ready to convert, ready to be baptized. I'd put this guy as that guy. Luke 23, 27 through 28. And there followed him a great multitude of the people and of women who were mourning and lamenting for him. But turning to them, Jesus said, Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. Who followed the cross to Golgotha? A bunch of people. A multitude of people. More than were just at the trial. Word spread. People showed up. Yeah, you're right. They're waiting for him to do something. We talked about that with Judas. The possibility of him thinking, no, he's got out of stuff like this before. This isn't going to happen. Yeah, they could be waiting for him to bring down the wrath of God, the 10,000 angels. Now's the time. So who are these people? And how does this compare to the triumphal entry that was whopping 7 days earlier, 6 days earlier? It could have been, should have been. I would say some of the same people. Some of the people, yeah. Some definitely. I would put some of the same people as saying crucify him. And if you're going to be there to say crucify him, you're going to be there to follow the whole thing. Make sure it gets done. But some of these people are, it says they're mourning and they're lamenting. And they're wailing. And they're sad. They know, you read the book of John, that's where I tell people to start. You don't know Christ? You don't know Jesus? Read the book of John. By the time you're at the end of that, you'll see Jesus. You'll see an innocent man with his death. Yep. Yeah, you're right. You have the great multitude of people. I didn't pick that up, but I think you're right. There's two groups. There's a great multitude of people. Crucify him. You can see it. Make sure this happens. Keep walking.
There's the Romans who are just doing their job.
They're just doing their
There's
job.
the Jews that hate him, that want him to die, and then there's the people that love him who don't want him to die.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you got the Romans who are doing their job. You got the ones that want to see him die, and Jews that hate him and want to see him die, and the people who love him. You're right. 3 groups. Do I hear 4? But you see this kind of thing. You see these groups, but you'd see them. And he cries out to the daughters of Jerusalem. He calls out to the local women who are the mourners, the lamenters. Triumphal entry, people came from everywhere, right? They came from everywhere. A lot of them, we know Bethany was a mile and a half, is what we found out. Couple miles, mile and a half. It was pretty close. They'd been there for the resurrection of Lazarus. They'd been to his house. And they came down to cheer on Jesus. And it's, like I say, there's some people, there's locals. This includes locals, includes outsiders.
But the only ones that seem to be lamenting for him are the women.
Just the women are the ones lamenting for him. It's a good point. They're the only ones. There's a mix of everybody, but it's a Friday off. The women have already done their job. The Passover feast has been eaten, and and they're lamenting. It is a weird sight on that, right? I mean, and he speaks to them. He speaks to the women. Daughters of Jerusalem, don't weep for me. Weep for you. Weep for your children. What's going to happen to Jerusalem? It's going to be destroyed. No.
Who's left that's not been killed is going to be sold into slavery. It's going to get really nasty.
Yeah, it's going to be destroyed. It's bad now in AD 29 to 33. The destruction happens in AD 70. So another 37 years will be destroyed. Every rock will be, no two rocks that touch now will touch then. People who live somehow and survive will be sold into slavery. Bad. Luke 23, 29 through 31, for behold, the days are coming when they will say, blessed are the barren, and the wombs that never bore, and breasts that never nursed. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, fall on us, to the hills, cover us. For if they do these things when the wood is green, what will happen when it's dry? It's going to be bad times. It's going to be bad. And you're better off if you don't have to worry about your kids. I worry about my kids. Grant went to D.C. yesterday, by the way. Jamie went with him. They drove to D.C. and they spent a few hours in town, and she flew home, and she's here today. So Grant's there for the summer. But anywho, as he moves on with his life. What do they think if they do these things when the wood is green? What will happen when it is dry? What do you think that means? Don't you wish we had more people that spoke like this? Man, if we had somebody that sat on a bench out there, just issued just fortune cookie statements like this. If they do things like this when the wood's green, what will happen when the wood is dry? Clayton? Snap. Yeah, you're right. It takes work to I know half my yard work is lumberjacking. When you take the green ones and you can, sometimes, yeah, but the dry ones, they snap, they crumble. The green wood really kind of represents the innocent. This is him, Jesus. If they're going to do this to me, I'm purely innocent, have no sin, what will they do to the ones who've sinned? What will they do what will happen to the ones who are morally dead? He kind of even looks at the fig tree that he's talked about. Even worse. So, Luke 23:32, 2 others who were criminals were led away to be put to death with him. They joined the parade. So these 2 criminals join in, and we know what happens to them. Isaiah 53:12 prophesies this. Therefore I will divide him in a portion with the many, and he shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his soul to death and was numbered with the transgressors. That he bore the sin of many and makes intercession for the transgressors. So it was already prophesied that he'd die with criminals. Matthew 27:33 through 34. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. When he tasted it, he wouldn't drink it. It was just that bad. And Mark 15:22 through 23, they brought him to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull, and they offered him wine mixed with myrrh, but he did not take it. So what did they offer Jesus to drink? Why? And why didn't he take it? It's bitter. Yeah. No, it didn't. It wouldn't have stopped the dehydration at all. No. It wouldn't have done that. No. Don't we need some of that stuff? Wanda, get some of us for Amazon for next Sunday. Chuck wants to pass out gall and myrrh, okay? Gall and myrrh. We need some from Amazon. We're going to mix it with grape juice. She's like, I'm not looking for that. Who knows, right? I'm going to tell you, gall may be like gallstone, animal, something like that. Something for stomach, something like that. I don't know. Myrrh, we know it's some kind of herb. My understanding is that this would be to kind of take away the pain. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh, yeah. So some kind of painkiller. Like I say, it is kind of strange though. I mean, not strange, but yeah, myrrh was there at close to his birth, when he was an infant, as one of the gifts, and myrrh was offered to him on the cross. It would probably be some kind of medicine of some sort. Like I said, they're gonna put nails through him, and he's gonna hang there. I don't know, anesthetic of some sort. Make it so that he doesn't fight back on him or something. But he wouldn't take it. He's there to be crucified. He's there to be a sacrifice, and he's there to take that full pain. No shortcuts. No shortcuts. That's why I didn't take it. I'm going to end it there. I had a couple more slides that I added, but I said I'd take you to the cross, and that's where he's at. What you got, Susan?
Well, I was just looking at
That's all right.
and one of the things is a lot of people believe it was
Poison of serpents.
Poison or absorb the fight poison serpents?
And it says it's also things secreted by the liver, but often in ancient times it was used the poison of the serpents. Like milking. I know you can milk a rattlesnake.
Hey, that rattlesnakes and little cobras.
They had lots of, and cobras are nerve toxin.
Yeah, it's a neurotoxin, so, I don't know. Anyways, that's where we're at. We cover crucifixion next week. Please join us there. Like I said, if you got an idea where to go with this class next, see me and Chuck and Brent, and we'll take all kind of considerations, or we'll come up with something on our own. So, thank you.